Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Schmooze Day at Things Crafty. We're glad that you're all here. We have an exciting day coming up for you. This is the 12 questions, and I'm your host, Ann Hynek. And today I'm interviewing two wonderful authors who co-authored the book Handmade Hostess. Kelly Lee-Creel and Rebecca Soder is with us today. And we are live right now, and we've got a chat going on, so feel free to chime in and ask questions. You must be a member of Tuesday Schmooze Day in order to view the live chat. We have also a question and answer session at the end of the interview today. So put your questions all in caps, and I will make sure that both Kelly and Rebecca answer your questions and as many of them as possible. And remember to put them in large caps. There's a lot of talk that goes on in the chat room, and in order for us to see them, we do need to see them in caps. Okay, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Kelly Lee-Creel and Rebecca Soder. I'm going to turn this over to them and let them introduce themselves to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly Lee-Creel and I live outside of Seattle, Washington, and I used to be a video game producer and then really felt like I wanted to do something more creative, and so I switched careers a few years ago to become a fabric and sewing pattern designer. And Handmade Hostess is my first book, which I co-authored with my sister Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Soder. I don't know if, well, it's still on Kelly. Well, I'm going to let you keep talking, Kelly.
No, it's your turn.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Rebecca Soder, and I am a wife and mother of 3 children. My youngest one is 2 months old, so my life is chaos. And I am really into crafts that are fun but easier to do, and I can do them without having to spend weeks and weeks on them. And my big thing is I'm into baking, and I blame Kelly for this because when we were little girls, we promised each other we would make a wedding cake for each other, and you know, you don't think much about it when you're 7 years old. Then we got older and we got engaged, and then we actually had to make the cakes for each other. And that was a daunting task if you've never made a wedding cake. Just, oh, I'm going to learn how to bake. But it turned out really good, and that's where I learned that I absolutely love to bake. And I also blame her for getting me to write this book, which I'm so happy that we did together. And it was a lot of fun and definitely a labor of love. But I think it turned out wonderful.
It did, and we're so proud of both of you. I've had the privilege to be able to read your book, and I'll tell you, I couldn't put it down. And how you illustrated everything so lovely and beautiful photographs, and the detail and explanation was just, it was a priceless bonus. And I can't thank you enough for how you put your book together. So let's go ahead and get going on some questions that we have for you young ladies. And the first question that we have today is, what does being creative mean to you? And Kelly, let me go ahead and start with you.
Okay. I think being creative is a really broad thing for me. I kind of feel like everything counts. So you could be a creative shopper, you could be a creative writer, you could be a creative baker like Rebecca, or beading. You know, anytime that you take kind of raw materials and you put your own spin on them and transform them into something else, I think that's what being creative is.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with you. You know, it kind of, it's a labor of love. It really is a labor of love.
Truly.
Okay. And can you talk about the moment when you realized that creating was something absolutely enthralling in your life and something that you had to do, Rebecca?
Well, for me, being creative is more baking, I guess, in reference to this. And it wasn't something that I had to do. It was something I really wanted to do, especially when it comes to baking. You know, when you're baking something for someone, you're really putting your heart and some love into it. There's, you know, you see those little posters with like 1 pinch salt, 1 pinch love. It really is putting kind of your heart into it. And when I discovered that not only could I do that, but I could put my own little twist on it, and I could design it kind of how I wanted. And as I learned to bake more and got more comfortable with the recipes, I learned, you know, different tips and techniques, and I even learned how to paint cakes with food coloring. And so it really just became a whole creative process, something that I never even 10 years ago would think you could do with baking. But you really can put in your heart and all your creative juices into baking, which is fun. And I hope that other people can read this book and become comfortable with the recipes and put their own twists on them and really make it their own.
And I noticed that the book is right behind you.
Yes.
And if you wouldn't mind showing our viewing audience what the cover of your book looks like, because it's just absolutely fantastic. So colorful and well illustrated and gorgeous. And Kelly, from what I understand, that your husband really contributed into doing a lot of the photography. And Rebecca, your husband, I've learned, is the hot glue master.
He
so
is.
Kudos to both of them from all of us. So we're pretty excited that they joined in your adventure and became really involved, and now the secret's out. Everybody knows.
They do.
Absolutely.
There's a picture in the beginning of the book with our whole family in it, and it really was a whole family process with the husbands. And then our parents were involved every time because they had to watch my kids. So here's a little picture of all of us.
Oh, now that's a beautiful picture. Hold it up there one more time.
My husband would also like everyone to know that the candles in the Halloween chapter, he painted those orange. They didn't have orange candles in the store because we were doing it like in the middle of summer or something, and he painted those.
We're going to give a shout out to the husbands. Love you. We mean it. There's their shout out. But how would we be if we didn't involve their shout-outs, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me go on with another question that our viewing audience is anticipating. Can you explain to us some of the rituals and the routines that you have in keeping forth with your creativity, and what inspires you to stay within those rituals and those routines? Either one of you can take this question.
I'll go first. For my routine, I get all my stuff together, and then I put in my earbuds, and I put on some of my favorite music, and I kind of just zone out. And it's like my own time to, I don't know, create. And again, like when you make these recipes over and over again, you kind of learn when they need to be done. You know exactly what they look like when they're finished. And so I really can kind of just zone out, and it's my time to just, it's almost relaxing, which a lot of people do not relate with baking. But when you know the recipes inside and out and it becomes your creative thing, it can actually be relaxing.
Almost zenful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Kelly, do you have a...
I do. I have two things that really are part of my process. One is just spending as much time outdoors in nature as I can. The weekends, we're always out there with our cameras. We're lucky now to live like with a lot of forests and parks around us. But when we lived in California, there were beautiful gardens, and that's really where I get almost all of my inspiration, is just from being outside. And then when I'm ready to start a project, I always just begin with like the simplest of tools. You know, I have like a pencil and a blank piece of paper, And that's when I just sketch kind of like all of my ideas and put them in one place. And it's funny because the sketches, they're so poor. I like to draw, but it's a real quick, back of the napkin kind of thing. But at the end of the day, when I see the finished project, I'm like, no, there it is. It was all right there in that little seed of an idea. And that's what I love, trying to take something from my imagination and bring it into real life.
It sounds wonderful. It really does. As you're both talking, I can just kind of picture myself there with you. And I have to tell you, Rebecca, I will volunteer myself to be a taster any given day of the week. I will travel. Have fork, will travel.
Yes, all my neighbors really loved when I was trying to get opinions and tastings. They'd be like, oh, pick me, pick me.
Oh, I can only imagine. I'm just sitting there, my mouth is drilling. I'm like, gosh, do I need to wipe, or, and then, talking about being out in the woods and whatnot, it just sounds so magical. And my gosh, what a wonderful way to be inspired, Kelly. Honestly, it really is inspirational. I love nature anyway, so that really worked for me. Now, another question we have for you is, what medium would you like to learn but you haven't yet?
Well, for me, I would love to be able to work with hard sugar, but it's a little bit tricky, so I'm sure I'm going to have to take some classes on that to actually get the techniques down. But that's probably one of the only mediums that I haven't worked with in regards to baking. So
for me, it's the embroidery machine. When I started this book, I told my husband, oh, I have to get a better sewing machine. And so I talked him into getting the embroidery machine. We got it used. I was so excited. I haven't embroidered anything on it. So that's kind of what's next. I'd love to be able to digitize my own designs and do some fun embroidery projects.
That sounds wonderful. And we really hope that both of you get a chance to do that sometime in the near future and add that into your next book.
Yeah.
I'm just dropping a little bird hint here. Okay. What is the first art project you can remember, and why do you think it has so much importance to you?
the first art project that I can remember was finger painting in preschool, and it was just big blue blobs everywhere. And I'm not really sure that that has a lot of pertinence to me now in regards to creativity, but in high school, my first real craft project was with clay, and I was sculpting horses coming out of waves, and I loved that. And thinking about how it pertains to the baking, using fondant is a lot like clay sculpture. And so I think that's kind of where I learned that I really like creating with my hands. So
for me, it's this picture I drew of a duck when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I think it was a pretty impressive picture for someone my age. But what was kind of special about it was it wasn't enough just to draw the duck on the piece of paper. I had to cut it out so it would be like a duck shape. And its neck was really thin, so it sort of tore, and my mom taped it together. But I kind of had this thing even then about wanting the art things that I created to kind of be almost three-dimensional, have like a little bit of life beyond just being something flat on the paper. And there was around that same time, I saw this really pretty star outside when I was a kid, and so I named the star Timothy. I don't know where that name came from, but I went home and I drew a picture of Timothy the star, and I cut it out and I put it up on my bulletin board. So I kind of liked the idea that creating art was like, I don't know, almost making a little copy of the thing that I had seen in nature.
That's very touching, actually.
Yeah.
I know, right? I want to make a little song to Timothy the Star.
I
What a
know.
wonderful memory, though. I mean, that's a lot better than my watercolor blobs in preschool.
Know if I can go that far back, girls.
Well, I think my parents were really encouraging, so they probably made a really big deal about it. I mean, to this day, my mom can still tell you about the duck I made. So,
I got to tell you, it sort of reminds me of something that would be on a mixed media art journal today. The little whimsical duck with a broken neck, glue and tape it together.
yeah.
We're going to have to try that one next. Kelly, we're going to have to get you in here and show us how to do a class on the broken neck duck. Oh, my goodness, that's funny. So, another question we have for you is, what inspired your book, Handmade Hostess? And I know that that's probably going to come from a lot of different areas, as typically they do. But there's always one thing that sticks out the most for everybody. And I would really like to touch base with both of you on that. And the cream de la cream, if you will, of the thought pattern that made sense to you for the Handmade Hostess.
Okay, well, I'll start. For me, it's really about capturing the spirit of the holidays that we celebrated as children, and the birthday parties and events that my mom planned. And Rebecca and I, we just grew up in this really creative house where my dad made the Christmas topper that is on the top of our Christmas tree to this day. My mom sewed our Halloween costumes. They were just really creative, and they kind of acted like it wasn't any big deal. You needed a Halloween costume? Mom went into the sewing room and came out with one. Like, it wasn't anything special. And then it wasn't really until we got to be adults that we realized the things that they were doing were really very special. And there was one year where I think Rebecca and I were just kind of missing being kids at home. Fall was coming, and Mom always made that time really fun. And we decided to have our first party, which we called the Welcome Fall Party. And it's kind of embarrassing because there were only 2 people invited, me and Rebecca. And I went to her house, and we ate cinnamon cake, and we drank apple cider, and we made fall crafts together. And that was like the first party. And we realized that kind of the only 2 people who were having more fun than we were kids. So we had this perfect excuse to recreate all that fun stuff from our childhood. So we wanted this book just to be a treasury of all of the things that we love about the holidays, all of the projects that we love to make. And our style's a little more whimsical and over the top than Mom's was. This was like our excuse to go spend a ton of money at the craft store and make everything. So, it's a little aspirational at times. But it's that same spirit of just kind of making things special. And that's what we wanted to come across in these pages of the book.
And I can certainly appreciate that, and it's wonderful. And Rebecca, we would like to hear from you as well on that question.
I honestly couldn't have said it more perfectly. There's a recipe in the book for pecan tarts, and when I smell those baking in the oven, it instantly takes me back to my childhood, because in the fall, you would wake up one morning and you would smell this aroma, and you knew that Mom was downstairs with her pie pan in the oven, her little tart pan that's been so loved. It's really dark, and these scrumptious little mouthfuls of yummy fallness come out of them. And I started making those for my own kids, and I think we might have had them at that fall party that we had. I can't remember, but it's something that I wanted to pass on to my children. And a lot of my friends would start being like, oh, can you give me that recipe? And we would start doing fun things. And you know, for Kelly and I think the holidays are really a time that we look forward to, and there's so many throughout the year. And it's like, oh, let's look forward to the next holiday. Let's do something special. And it's a time to just bring joy into life and something to look forward to. And yeah, I mean, it kind of just came together in this crazy idea. Let's write it all down in a book, and it was a wonderful process. And now it's kind of a treasury of our special holidays for the year.
Well, I can tell you that probably the majority of our audience right now, including myself, is sitting back thinking of those wonderful fragrance as we were kids, you know, and our minds are just going, oh gosh, the days, the days. Can I mimic it?
You can. These recipes are doable.
We're going to have to contact you on that for further
Yes.
instruction, Rebecca.
I'm available.
And as we've been talking, I have been listing your available websites in the viewing audience chat room. And for those that are watching us outside of Crafty Link and that are not in our chat room, after the interview, we will be listing all the websites that were given to us today from both Kelly and Rebecca. So those will be available for your viewing. And that's also where they can get your book as well, right? Or from your websites?
There's a link there.
Okay, great. And can they also get it from Amazon?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Wow, I love it. Makes it much easier for everybody to have it in their possession. So we're going to move right along. And you have so many fun projects in your book. What project was your favorite and why? Rebecca, let's start with you.
Okay, for baking, in regards to baking, my favorite one is the cream cheese cherry pie. And I will pull up a picture. Because this one is my family's favorite. The kids go nuts. My husband goes nuts. My brother-in-law goes nuts for it. Everyone loves this one. And it's so easy to make. And it's perfect for summer. It's something so easy to bring to a barbecue or a picnic, and because it's an icebox pie. Here's a picture. It is scrumptious.
Oh, that looks so amazing. Give me a fork and call me happy.
And this was my mom's recipe. I tweaked it a little bit, but it's seriously foolproof. I mean, if you don't want to make the graham cracker crust, you can buy a graham cracker crust and just make the filling. You're basically just whipping everything together, pouring it in, and letting it chill. It's very simple to make. Anyone can make it. And if you have problems making it, contact me. I will tell you what to do, but it's really, I mean, anyone can make it, and it's delicious. And I look forward to summer every year because of it.
And you all heard it live. She said, contact her. She will help.
You can. Yes.
We heard it firsthand right here. Okay, and Kelly, what about you?
Well, we talked a little bit about how I'm always going outside and then trying to make little copies of the things that I saw. So my favorite project is this fabric flower. I don't know, it's pretty big, but you can kind of see it there. And I kind of went outside and I studied how the flowers were made. And so these are individual fabric petals that have some interfacing in them. And I've taught a couple of classes on this now, and I'm really excited because the pattern is really easy for people to make. It's just cutting out the interfacing into the petal shapes. And at the back of the book are fold out template patterns, and everyone was able to make a flower just like this. And they're really fun for centerpieces, or we used it for a bridal shower, which was fun. I kind of want to get married again and use those as my bouquet. Same guy. And then if the cool thing is that there are a couple of the patterns in the back that you do have to enlarge a little bit. But if you make those petals at just the printed size, you end up with this really sweet, smaller flower that you can use as a small decoration or a present topper or something like that. So.
Well, I've got to tell you, when I was reading the book and I came across those flowers, I just thought they were the most magical fabric flower I had ever seen. Not only they're just whimsical and gorgeous, but I loved how you illustrated them in the book. It was very much appreciated. And you just get the full aspect of how grandiose this flower really is. You know, we see a lot of flowers out there on the market today, and there's always that one special flower that just sticks out for you. And I have to tell you, Kelly, it was yours.
Thanks.
It was a wonderful flower. Okay, thank you for those answers. That was really nice. I appreciated that. And your book offers a fun and fresh style to handmade party decor. What did this style and why are you drawn to it?
I don't think we necessarily went for a particular style. It really is how we entertain. And before we came up with these specific plans for what we were going to put in the book, we called each other and we brainstormed over it and wanted it all to flow together. And I mean, it literally is something that we would do for our own parties and have done for our own parties. Actually, one of the events, the Mad Scientist party, was my son's birthday party. It was, all of our family was there, and yeah, so I don't think we really went for a particular style. We just put ourselves in there.
And what a wonderful job you did. There, you can see the individual inspiration from both of you together as well, uniquely different. And it just blended itself so well. Kelly, do you have a response for us?
Yeah, I would say the same thing with Rebecca. I don't feel like if we do have a style, it's just that's how the things that we make look. So it's great that they go together. But I think at the beginning of each project, we did pick a color story, and we did talk about what we wanted the party to be. If it was something fancy for adults, or if it was something cute and whimsical for kids. And then from that, we would kind of just take pictures of the things that we were working on to make sure we were still planning, you know, we all belonged at the same party. Because a lot of the photo shoots, that would be the first time we saw everything we had made together in the same place.
Right.
But yeah, we kind of like, sometimes it's fun to be fancy, and sometimes it's fun to be casual and cute and have something that the kids can play with. So.
You know, and I think that's really important. And again, I'm constantly referencing back to your book because that's what our subject is you ladies and your book. So one of the projects that I noticed, and we were talking about this earlier, is there is a wonderful chapter in there about a tea party and how you illustrated that. And Rebecca, do you happen to have a picture that you can put up real quick and just show them this wonderful illustration of this tea party? And if you all just don't fall in love with this, I don't know what you could possibly fall in love with. Look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? Let me see if I can get you up here on big screen. Hang on. That is just absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for holding that up. And there are wonderful segments in there on how to do such simplified hosting as well as more in-depth, which leads me right into my next question, is if you were to help somebody who's never hosted a party before and who's a beginner, what tidbits would you give them in helping them be successful in hosting an easy beginning party?
I have one, and then I know Rebecca has some good tips too. For me, it is to do a little pretend walkthrough. Pretend that you are a guest arriving at your party, and for a minute, pretend you've never been there before, and then just think through all of the things that you would need. Whether it's, you know, maybe we need to move a table over here so people have a place to set down a present, or over here we're going to be eating. And just make a good list for yourself at the beginning of all of the basic stuff. And then you can start thinking about how you're going to add personality and make it really creative. But if people come over and there are no forks, they're not going to appreciate your pretty flowers or anything else, you know, until you have kind of everybody all taken care of. And that's what it's really about.
That is great advice. View it as you are the guest. I love it. You know, I'm going to remember that. And I've hosted many parties, but there were so many wonderful tidbits that you guys gave, and it's like, gosh, I never really thought about that before. You know, it's wonderful. Rebecca, what kind of tidbits do you have for us?
For me, I am big on doing as much as you can before the actual party, and not just in the morning. Like, when we set up for a party, we set up as much as possible the night before. And that way you're not scrambling around in the morning, especially if you do have children, because you think about, you have to get yourself ready, you have to get them ready, you have to get the food out. I try to do as much food as I can beforehand as well. A lot of these desserts, they can be made the night before. One of the recipes in here is for creme brulee, but it's a no-bake because it is for a kid's party. I mean, who wants to be stressing out about, is the creme brulee perfect? It needs to be easy to do. And not only that, but when you have a party, you want to be able to enjoy it, and you want to be able to walk around and mingle with your guests and not be running around like a crazy person trying to pull out everything. So get it set up as much as you can the night before. Tablecloths, place settings, decorations, everything the night before. That way you can actually relax and breathe a little bit.
You know, that's wonderful, and it's not for the procrastinator.
True.
Yeah, and if you have procrastination issues, and sometimes I do.
I do too as well, but I just tell myself it has to be done the night before. So that's my deadline.
Yeah, and you know, I found myself going, well, as I was reading your book, I thought, you know, this is really easy because I can make a list just out of this book. I don't have to go to so many different areas all over the website and various different books and, you know, and try to gather all this information. I can use this one book and make a list and have it all together. So I didn't feel like I needed to procrastinate anything. So that worked out really well. Yeah. So, and I just wanted to let you know that. It was great. And so another question that I have for you is, what projects would you have liked to have included in the book, but that did not get in the book? And would you share a little bit about those projects?
Well, I think we could come up with hundreds of projects. I mean, it's just brainstorming, and there's so many fun events in life that we could have created a party out of. But the one that we nearly did was a New Year's Eve party, and involving stars and twinkling, and but it might go in the next book, or it might go in a website post. We'll see. So I can't give too much away about it.
And I certainly appreciate that, and we're looking forward to your next book. So maybe a little hint, Kelly, of something, maybe?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Because in the beginning, we brainstormed every party idea, you know, and then we had pages, so we had to cut it down. There are 12 parties in the book, and each of them have 3 projects. But we were constantly trying to sneak in more projects. So there's a lot of ways to, like, well, if you do the project in chapter 3, but you make it brown, it'll be good for this one. You know, we tried to keep expanding and making as many extra little props. On the cover, there's this parasol backdrop. It's not actually technically one of the projects in the book, but we just thought it was a really cool idea and we wanted to make it. So that's the kind of way we tried to slip in little extras, was come up with other prop ideas. So it didn't take up a lot of instruction space, but gave extra ideas.
Absolutely, and I can certainly appreciate that. And I love how you didn't give away your projects and you saved them for your next book. And I need to tell you, that was smooth, girls. Smooth. I was like, oh, I like them.
On the St. Patrick's Day, there are 3 truffles shown, and I tried to get the 3rd recipe for the truffles in there, but there wasn't enough word room. So that one might end up on the website as well. We'll just have to see.
And we're going to be looking forward to that as well. I can't not wait. Because, you know, as a host, I am most definitely going to try to get as much information as I can. Okay. So I have a last question, sort of. And this one's a lot of fun. If you could be any party dip, what kind of party dip would you be?
Okay, I have my answer. I'm going first. I would be spinach and artichoke dip because that's my favorite, and I think it's kind of classic, but with a hint of jalapeno because give it a little kick and throw my own spin on it. So that is my answer.
I love it. And give me some cheese bread, and I'm there with you. Okay, Kelly, what about you, hon?
My friend Melissa makes this really nice little dip for strawberries that's made with marshmallows. And it's just this like fluffy, sweet, cloud-like topping. Just a little extra happy on your happy kind of a thing.
Give me a graham cracker, and I am happy.
Yes.
It sounds like something that would be fun out on a camping site.
Yes.
Maybe
outdoor picnics.
Yes, that needs to go in your next book, perhaps. Hostess of the camping sites.
Oh, God.
That's pretty cool, actually. I'm going to feel that maybe I contributed in a small little way. Okay, we've got some amazing questions from our viewing audience, and I would like to go ahead and see if we can get some of those answered. And our first question is from Nancy, and she asked, is there anything in the book on fondant flowers?
There isn't anything in the book on fondant flowers in particular. There are 2 recipes, I believe, that do use fondant, but I didn't go super into depth because there's a whole scale of baking abilities, and I didn't want to get too complicated for people because I wanted the majority of people to be able to do it. But fondant flowers are pretty easy. You can even get punches at the craft stores, and I mean, just roll it out thin, punch it, set it, and let it dry, and they're good to go. But there isn't anything super in particular in the book because in the book I did have to include the recipes for the actual dessert and the decorations. And with limited word count, I can only do so much.
You know, and that was, I'm glad you actually touched on that a little bit, Rebecca, because I did want to mention that in your book, everything follows up. All the food that you talk about, the designs that you talk about, follow up with detailed, explicit directions and instructions. And I personally am very grateful for that. I'm a bonehead when it tries to figure things out for myself. And so I was super ecstatic when I went, oh my God, they have directions. I was very excited. And so Kelly, could you answer that question for us as well? Do you need me to go back over it again?
About the fondant flowers?
Yes.
Well, I think Rebecca covered that pretty well, but I would just say, you know, that was one of the really nice things about working with this publisher, Stash Books, which is part of C&T Publishing. They really proofread those instructions over and over again, and they're really very good at kind of figuring out what are the things that people know and will be able to figure out on their own, and where do people need some extra help. So we tried to balance that out pretty well.
Right.
Absolutely. Wonderful responses on that. And, Rebecca, you're right. There are so many other avenues that you addressed in the book, and I can see why there was not one single in particular thing that you gave a lot of time to, because there were so many wonderful different recipes and array of foods that, oh my gosh, I just wanted to dive into all of them. So, and I appreciate that. I've read some books where people go on and on and on, and 5 chapters later, I'm still reading about the same thing, No, give me some variety. And I loved how you put that together. Okay, our next question is from Beth, and she asked, is there websites or blog addresses? And I'm going to kind of jump into answering this a little bit, and I'm going to let you touch up on what your addresses include. And as I'm doing this, I'm listing them in chat right now. And for Kelly's, I'm listing first, and then Rebecca's, I'm listing second. So if you're not in chat, again, with us at this particular time, we are going to list all these addresses at the below of this interview. So you will have resources. So if you girls want to just go ahead and touch base on your addresses a little bit and what they consist of. I've already placed them in chat, so they're there.
Sure. I have a blog called Ever Kelly, and that's where I post a lot of photos I've taken. I talk about my fabric designs and other sewing patterns and projects. And then I think there's also a link to Facebook, my Ever Kelly page on Facebook, and Twitter and Pinterest. And I love getting emails and meeting new people. I think that's the best part of the internet. So yeah, feel free to send questions or comments. And if you're working on a project in the book, I know Rebecca and I would both love to hear from you.
Yes, we would.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'll jump in with my websites. The FromBeccasHome.blogspot.com is kind of an ongoing website that I've had for a while. Crafts that I do, things going on in my life. If you like to follow people, that's on there. BeccasBlueBakery.blogspot.com is a list of the desserts that I've done. I used to do it professionally for other people. I even think my sister's wedding cake is on there, the first cake that I ever made. So you can flip through that blog and look through all the pictures. It's kind of a food gallery of sorts. And then my Facebook one is listed as well, and that's connected to my Facebook, and I go on there all the time. So if you have any questions, you want to say hi, I check it every few days. You can contact me that way. I'd love to say hi. I haven't kept up on the websites quite as much recently because I have a 2-month-old, and we are in the middle of moving. So it's been crazy. But yeah, Facebook is probably the quickest way to contact me, and I'd love to say hi to you guys.
And everybody who's in chat, please take a moment out and look at the websites that we just placed in there for you, as well as, again, below this interview, I will list all their websites, so you will be able to go see them and connect with them in many different ways. There are a bunch of websites, and I love it. Love social media. Okay, I have another question from Shirley, and this is a fun question. She said, any tips for parties for a ladies group with 4 tables and a food table?
Okay, that's a great question, Shirley. I think if I had 4 tables and a food table, I would kind of, and I'm guessing you probably have a budget too, I would consider making the food table kind of your one special place to really show off. We like to do that sometimes with the dessert station and kind of make that the fancy table that you spend a lot of time on. And then make your other 4 tables a little simpler. Tie it in with the colors. do something fun for a centerpiece. But when you have that many tables, sometimes it's a good idea to focus all of your creative attention on one big moment that people will really notice and appreciate. So you're not spreading yourself too thin. If you have a ton of food for the food table, then maybe you do the opposite. You keep the food table kind of simple so people can bring potluck and different food stations and things like that. And then you really focus on making your centerpieces really special.
Right. I definitely think that when you have that many tables, having one big table is the way to go. But if you do want to do a special little touch, we made lotus blossom individual place cards, handmade. They're really simple, and we put everyone's name on there. So it's kind of a special handmade touch. You can take that idea and run with it. You can do your own handmade touch and just a little something small and won't take you a bunch of time. So you can do that for each place setting or some special centerpiece for the table and a handmade touch there. But you don't have to go crazy on every single table because we only have so much time and we're human.
And that we are. I love the fact that you talk about adding in just little tidbits here and there, and you know, sometimes a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah.
And I was noticing that in a couple sections of your book. It wasn't that you had this huge array of stuff that was, you know, over the top, or when you look at it, you're overwhelmed before you even think about doing something. It was simplified, but yet your pieces spoke volumes. And I loved that. It was perfect. So kind of it really goes along with Shirley's question. So that worked out well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Our next question is, we have a special guest in our chat room today. And he's in there under the name of the UPS store. Yes, I'm going to out you. Because I love doing that.
Whoa.
This happens to be Rebecca's husband. And he asked a question for the ladies. Which was your favorite event to plan and why? And I'm just going to let you two have fun because there's obviously a hidden little fun secret here that we are anxious to hear about. Spill it, girls.
I'm trying to think which hidden secret he's talking about because there are many. Each event that we set up, I mean, it was an event in and of itself, and there was so many fun little things that happened. I'm going to go with the mad scientist because when we were photographing it, my husband had to crawl under the table and hold up a chalkboard high above his head, probably for 30 minutes, so that we could get the perfect photograph for the event. And that was one of my favorite ones too because of the eyeball cupcakes. There are eyeballs on top, and then there's a gummy worm inside, which is such a fun thing for little boys. You know, to bite into a cupcake and there's a gooey worm. That one was really fun to plan, and goo blobs everywhere. Just, yeah, I would say that was one of my favorite ones.
That sounds like it was a lot of fun, actually. I can only just imagine. So, you know, did you get photos of when the kids bit into the cupcakes and there was a surprise for them?
Yes, I mean, those are on my personal family photos. We do have those. But
those would be fun to see sometime. I hope you have them on one of your websites.
what about you, Kelly? What were you thinking for?
Gosh, that's so hard. I think for me, I had the most fun at our 4th of July picnic because we all dressed up in our patriotic outfits and we went to the park to shoot the photos, and it was not the 4th of July.
No, yeah.
It was. It wasn't anywhere close to the 4th of July, and so the people at the park were really concerned about us because we looked like big old weirdos in our patriotic outfits. So that one was really fun, and it was a casual kind of party where we wanted it to be. We wanted the decorations that you made for 4th of July to be good for the whole summer the kind of thing that you could bring out. So we did a lot of stripes. We did a lot of like little ruffle details, things like that that were fun and summery, and you could use the whole summer. But our patriotic outfit sort of gave us away. So
I'd forgotten about that. That was quite the adventure.
yeah.
I have to tell you, sometimes the behind-the-scenes pictures and descriptions can be a whole lot of fun and a whole different book. Oh my gosh, I wish I could have seen you doing that. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall. Oh, Lord. That's not something that you see every day outside of 4th of July, is it? Oh, goodness. Well, thank you for answering that question. That was a lot of fun. And we have an amazing, wonderful, heartfelt comment from Beth in our viewing audience. And she just wanted to say to you, she envies you both because, one, you get to work together, and two, you get to plan parties and go to parties and have fun together. Now, and that's going to lead me into a question for you both, is when you are planning your parties and an event comes up and you find yourself having to work together, how do you work with each other and schedule this out and come together to create a theme? How does that happen for you?
Well, usually Kelly sends me a sketch, a couple lines of pencil, and I know exactly what she's talking about. Honestly, I think it's because we're sisters, and so we kind of know how each other talks, and we know what the other person. Really easy to come together with the ideas, and we understand each other's language.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a couple of times we were thinking about the party the same way, but we had totally different color schemes in mind. So we learned early on to figure that out very far in advance. But we also, I think it's really nice because Rebecca is the best cheerleader that you could ever have. Oh, that's going to look amazing. You should totally make that. But at the same time, if I have, an idea that's not going to be that easy for other people to do or makes no sense to her, she has no problem telling me. And she'll just be like, yeah, you kind of want to keep thinking about that, right? So we're, when it's your sister, you can kind of wrangle them a little bit if you need to.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I could just see you guys going through this. And, the admiration that everybody is talking about is how wonderful you two seem to work together. And it's just lovely to see, and we're really enjoying it. I have a couple of comments that are coming up in our viewing audience that I would like to share with you because, again, they are warm and they are heartfelt, and they're really appreciating the synchronistic abilities that you two have together. And Shirley says, this comment is for the ups guy, Rebecca, your husband. As a craft author, may I say thanks for everything you've helped with that your wife didn't have time for. And what a lovely sentiment, Shirley. And I'm sure, they don't hear enough of it, and they're excited to hear and how grateful that they are as being a part of such a wonderful task that you had taken on. And also, we have another comment from Beth, who was making a comment in a statement that you said earlier. She said, tell them you're time travelers, when you were talking about your patriotic uniforms and outfits. And I really wanted to tell you that because I just was sitting here giggling when I read it. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So also, another comment from Mr. Soder says, thanks, Shirley. That was very nice. Hopefully you have a chance to experience the book. We all hope everybody has a chance to experience the book. I have had a delightful time with your book and this interview today. And our viewing audience has just had an amazing time with you ladies. My last question to you for the day is, what last sentiment do you want to say to our viewing audience today that is going to stay with them for a very long time?
Oh, no pressure. I would say make the party your own. And if there's something that's too complicated and you can't do it, don't stress about it. The best thing to have at a party is a happy hostess. Someone who's welcoming with a great smile and having fun with her guests. And, you know, I hope that these recipes are all different types of abilities, from super simple that everyone can do to something that might challenge you. But if it's too tough, don't worry about it. There have been so many times where it's been midnight, I'm covered in flour, I'm crying because something didn't work out. My husband will come in and give me encouragement, or I'll call my sister and she'll be like, it didn't work out. Let's move to the next one. So, you know, we've all been there. Don't stress about it. It's not worth it. The point is to have fun and to enjoy the party.
Wonderful words from the wise. Thank you so very much, Rebecca. Kelly, we would love to hear your last words.
Gosh, she sounded so good, didn't she? What do I say?
She did. That's a hard act to follow.
I would say this is something I kind of said when I was at Quilt Market recently in Portland, but there's something about parties that can kind of bring out this like competitive vibe between people. And I felt this too, where I'm getting ready to have people over and suddenly I really want to show off, which is terrible. I want to focus on what Rebecca was talking about making people feel welcome. And one thing I guess want to say is, you know, there's so much inspiration out there. I think the book has a lot of variety of projects, but also just on Pinterest, and we're inundated with all of these ideas. And sometimes we get a little too perfectionistic about it. And I think the most important thing is the way that we show love and care. And some of those things don't show up in a photograph. You know, that can only be felt when you know that somebody took the time to make something special for you, or to invite you to a special experience. And I guess that's the thing that I try to remember, is that having it really beautiful and perfect, that's a good thing to aspire to, and it's good to improve our craft and creative skills. But that's not the only thing that has value when we're making something. The heart that we put into it, the time, and the way that we show care for other people is just as equally important.
Kelly, you just melted my heart. You really did. I personally just want to thank you two ladies for all that you have done and what you've gone through in your life with your families, and have come together to create such a phenomenal book. It speaks volumes of who you are individually, and as well as who you are together with your families. And may everybody be blessed from it. I was. So, and I can't thank you enough. And we appreciate you being here with us today. And we're looking forward to whatever you do in the future. We'll keep tabs with you and keep going with you. And many blessings to you both. And that's going to wrap up our interview today with 12 questions. We thank all of our viewing audience for being with us today. Remember, you saw them live on Tuesday Schmooze Day at Things Crafty, Crafty Link. We invite you to come back and see us every Tuesday. We will be here for wonderful live shows and our live interviews, and we'll keep you updated with future posts on what we've got going on. So, from the words of everybody, I love you. Thank you.